was going to start out with showing you where Bitcoin's at. Broke 51K. This is on the 1 minute chart. It looks like it's going to climb a little bit higher, maybe go to 51.50. Anyways, this is a perfect opportunity to go through ENJIN. I've been trading ENJIN since 51 cents. I mentioned it on Twitter and in my Discord group around that time, and I gave the little history on it. It has historically has a run in March. Nearly every alt season, alt party, whatever you want to call it, starts to do its thing. It runs with or without Bitcoin's permission. Bitcoin usually controls the market. When it goes up, the market goes up. When it goes down, the market goes down, depending on the season we're in. ENJIN doesn't care. When it's ready to run, it has the right news, it's ready to run. So what we're going to do here, we won't necessarily start naked. We're on the 1 minute chart, so things are going to move fast. Stochastic is near the top here, and that doesn't mean it's going to fall down, because if the 5 minute is at the bottom, if the 5 minutes at the bottom, then the 1 minute stochastic is going to go flat, or it's going to stay at the top, much like this here, this area here, while this is moving up. So the 1 minute really doesn't matter. Let's zoom out. It's not much data on the 1 day. Let's see what I can show you. So we got the downtrending volume. We finally got a breakout here. We're in the 4 hour, like half a day ago. We probably expect to see much higher volume coming in over the next day or so, much like what we had here. We had all the red here, and then we started getting the rising green volume, and hopefully we get a huge breakout pretty soon. We had the stochastic is topping out on the 4 hour. Again, we can go sideways once we start going higher. Again, I don't know where ENJIN can go. I'll give you a general idea of where we can go right now. Let me just clear this all out for you and start over. Great time to show you a breakout trading zone. We already passed that. Reload zone, didn't want to go back there for some reason. If we get a breakdown, we're definitely coming back to $1, but everything's just too bullish right now for ENJIN. Doesn't seem to care about anybody's reload zones right now. We may revisit, but not yet. Show you what was happening here. We had a descending wedge pattern. Look it up. Anything I'm mentioning, just pause the video, go research it, go Google anything I'm saying, read everything about it, because you want to get to the point one day where you're able to just look at a chart, a naked chart, and say, oh, this is about to happen, without any indicators or lines, support, patterns, volume. Well, you need volume. Nothing. You shouldn't need anything. We don't need this one anymore. That's irrelevant. Goodness gracious, too many lines. We're just going over prices. So it's a good time to look at breakout pricing, since Bitcoin kind of broke out. Bitcoin might start consolidating real soon, which is why alts are moving in the first place. So we had a lower high. You want to check to see, or a higher low. You want to check to see if we have any higher lows forming. So we had the bottom here, the blue. Call that the first low, and we really haven't had another low since then. This is on the 4 hour chart with not much data, so that's very interesting. We have the high here. We are looking to close this 4 hour, well, we just started this 4 hour within the body of this wick. These wicks here, the way I play them, if you have a solid candle within it, then it tends to be a bullish. It tends to be bullish, and same thing on the downside. Not much data you can see here. You know, right here, once you see this body closing within the wick, then that's more downside. Same thing here. You see the green attempting to go in here on this body, on this candle, and then this candle started we're higher within this candle. Within the next 4 hours, you're going to want to see a close. Right now, my time is 4 p.m. Pacific Standard. You're going to want to see a close within this body. Once we get a close within this body, you're not going to see anything lower than the body of this candle here, and you'll start to see a continuation of the trend. Let's zoom in again. We're continuing higher. Next thing we want to look at. Let me go over my strategy. I've shown YouTube and Discord group what we tend to see on these breakouts. You'll see a move up. That's awesome. Mouse went dead. That's not good. Bluetooth mics aren't very efficient. Anyways, we got to move up. That's weird. What is going on? I feel like we're going to go to 150. We're going to retest 150 and maybe come back to like 145 before we accumulate and move higher, possibly back to 140. You have a move up, and then we come back to this level here. It looks like we were retesting this area to start. Looks like we tapped 148. We might continue higher. This is on the 5 minute. Let's just go to the 1 minute. It's easier to explain there. You can do this on almost any chart. You break up, you retest the last support area. We're gonna. This is the test dip. This is a little reset dip. It's a reload area, and then we broke higher than we were before. Came back down. We used the 50-day as support to start, but we didn't get much push higher. So test dip was here. Now the liquidity touch. I'll show you in a little bit more detail. Hopefully I can do a better job than I did last time. This is the liquidity pool, P-O-L-L or P-U-L-L, however you want to say it. And as you can see, what happened under this volume profile bar, blue means it's the buy. There were a lot of purchases within this area. Yellow means there were that many amount of sales, much more buys than sales. But we got enough sales to push the price down at the right time to push the price under, and we keep moving because we're on the 1 minute. Yeah. Let me push it back. So it's still a liquidity pool, and we have. You want to mark it out with the line to show. This is the area of interest that the bots and the scalpers are going to be buying into. And at the same time, it's confluent. This very last line here, this very last wick is confluent. No, that's not what I wanted. Learn what that means. Alt-G. This very last line is confluent with this area here. You're going to get a move down, a wick down within this area. Let's zoom in a little bit. And that tends to be what happens every time. Never fails. Whether it breaks up or breaks down, it doesn't matter. It's going to touch this area. It's going to bounce. Even though it didn't bounce very high, we actually bounced to the 786 area. I can see that as the 786 area without even needing the Fibonacci lines. The bounce tends to go, the bounce was here, the bounce tends to go back up towards the most amount of solid candles that come together, which happen to be this area. This area wasn't too much. You want the red and the green that come together to create a resistance area, and on the bottom side, support area. So you could have figured without the Fibonacci that you're going to touch somewhere within that area. So we had the test dip here. Let's see what I can do while we're zoomed out. Not much you can do. We got the wick down into the liquidity area, which happened to be, obviously you can see, it was confluent with this area of low the low amount of buy orders. There weren't enough buy orders to support continuation from here on up until the late buyers got their orders filled, and then we move on up. Typically, what ends up happening, I said in my last video, what ends up happening is we test the high of this area, and if we're going sideways, if we're not in as bullish environment as we are over the last few hours, with Bitcoin breaking out as well, then we would start to come down in a way, or retest these moving average lines. So we retest these. We retest the 50-day red line, 50-day moving average red line. If we were in a less bullish environment, we would have retested this the 100-day moving average line before coming back up to test it. But when we start to break down, when we start to officially break down, we're going to retest it. You can usually see it on the 5-minute or the 15-minute with more precision. So we retested the 15 or the 21-day, moved up, retested the 50-day, moved up. The next move here on the 15-minute is going to be a retest of what looks like 140 if we start to come down, when we do start to come down. When the RSI is oversold, these are just my thoughts. When the RSI is oversold on the 1 hour, if this RSI doesn't break back to back even, what is that, 83.48 to the last high move, then you'll start to see a move down. But what we see here with the RSI is RSI already broke the previous equilibrium of the last move here. So that tells me we should be coming back to this 83.5, and that is about 7% away. So you can probably expect a 7% move. You take the difference between this area here and add it here. 7% move from, let's see what we get. 7% move from there. We're looking at $1.54. So if you're playing this short term for a quick scalp, then you're looking at $1.54. We don't have any Fibonacci's running at the moment. We got a lot going on. All the red lines are areas of confluence. Let me see if I can get rid of them. These areas that you want to see you want to mark these out for support and resistance. And you want to do it on a high time frame, 1 day, 4 hour, depending on which time frames you're using. We'll move those out the way for now. That's on the 1 day. This line is just showing where most of the volume happened in the volume profile. I can't delete it. It's there. You can delete it in settings, but it's important, so you need it. But ideally, on the 1 hour, the stochastic's at the bottom, so it tells us we still have, we typically have a move upwards. The faster moving average line is already crossed above the slower moving average line. MACD looks like it's done accumulating. The RSI can afford to come up to the, 85, 87 basically from 77. Another 10% move on the 1 hour. Let's see what we can show here. This is one way of finding out where this time frame can possibly go. Find a top, and I'll show you what is going on. I'll show you the other way. It's just acting up. Oh my gosh, what is going on? It won't let me use the ruler with shift. And then, sorry, we overshot. We're still showing what, 160, a little around 160. So that is part of what we're looking for here with ENJIN. We're still looking for a higher high. Remember that part. We have the high, the higher high, we have the lower high, and now we're looking for a higher high. 160, somewhere above 150 would satisfy that higher high. A solid green candle. The hour ends in 30 minutes. You want to keep an eye on that. If we zoom back in, we're coming down to the liquidity area. As you can see here, everything resets. Nothing goes up in a straight line without resetting. Even if it looks like it goes up in a straight line, we still have resets. So ideally, we're going to come back to, could be 145, or we could come back to the red line. The 50-day moving average is ready to be touched again at 144. My average for this trade is at 130, I believe. So I have some room to allow, I have some wiggle room to allow this trade to move without getting out. It's not fun letting profit get away, but when you know what you're doing and you see what's happening, then you're not worried, especially if it wants to trend higher. The 15-minute, again, it could come back to 140, but I don't think it's ready to. I think 144 is going to be the highest. So we'll see. But yeah, that's that on ENJIN. Bitcoin's doing a similar thing on the low time frame. If we zoom out to the 4-hour, the 1 day is what has the Fibonacci's. The inverted head and shoulders seems to be playing out. Can't see much on the 1 day, not as much detail. So yeah, as we talked about, if you saw in my Discord group, that's invalidated. The bearish head and shoulders, the reds, are invalidated. It would have had to break under 47K to go down to 43K, and then you measure where it's going to go from the top of the head to the neckline. The neckline happens to be where the volume was confluent at, 47.5. Then you take the difference. What is that? I hate when it does that. Calculator is too big. Okay. Ends up being, is one of the last things I calculated. 5, let's just say 2200 minus 47,500. You take the 4,700 difference and you subtract it from 4,700, and we end up with around 43K. That's where the head and bearish head and shoulders pattern would have took us, but we got nowhere near the neckline. It was a straight bounce. Well, we got to the neckline and it was a bounce. It was a bear trap because we are in a bigger inverted head and shoulders. So let's get rid of the bearish head and shoulders, so we can see more clearly what's going on. This is the trading zone. I made this grayed out area the trading zone. You want to live in the top of this zone to the bottom of this zone, typically. That's your trading zone. So if you're shocked that it goes higher or to the bottom or to the top of this, then you weren't paying attention to what the trading zone was. So the inverted head and shoulders target is 59K. Resistance looks like it's going to be 52,300, but we have many touches here already. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to consolidate around 51K, between 51 and 52, possibly 50 and 52 before we make another move up. And then I think we have 54K as a sort of semi-resistance before. So we have to get above 52.3, make that support, then to go to 54K, make that support before heading to 59K ultimately. And then we have targets of 63, 67, 70, 73, depends on who you ask. So that's what's going on with Bitcoin. We're still in an uptrend. I've been telling you, we've been in an uptrend since 43K. You just have to understand, if you understand what kind of patterns are being made, you can see the left shoulder here and the head being created. Once we went back here, then a lot of people were like, a lot of good traders, a lot of people were pay attention to patterns, like, oh, we're going to make a right shoulder and we're going to retest the neckline, or we're going to make a right shoulder and break down possibly, or go up. Now we're in a decision area. Now we have to accumulate in this area here, and that's where the MACD comes in. You'll start to see this go sideways before either making a move up or a move down. I think we're going to make a move up. And then obviously the head and bearish head and shoulders pattern on the smaller time frame is what confused a lot of people and got a lot of algorithms out and so on and so forth. So that's that with Bitcoin. While Bitcoin goes sideways, I believe alts are going to make a move. Uni made a move. I made a small long from, I believe I got into it late. It was, I believe 30, almost 33, and I got out mid 33s. I wasn't prepared to stay in to this point here, which is the point I saw it at. I saw it at least going to 34.50. You're starting to see the DeFi tokens, they start making their move before Bitcoin makes its move. I shared RSR on the other chat. Here are the details of it. This is on the 1 day pattern. I had a small long on that, got out at 0.75. I'm going to allow it to accumulate in this area here before looking to get back in, because the BTC pair is very, very bullish. You're not going to, okay, yeah, this is the one. This is what I shared on my group. All the chat and the info is there. And then dog. Let's talk about dog real quick. There's something I saw that I don't think very many, okay, there goes my Bluetooth mouse. Not a lot of people are talking about it. Everybody's talking about dog. They have no idea what they're talking about. There are a handful of people who know what they're talking about. BitLord is one of them. He's a very good trader, always has been. Crypto BitLord, crypto_BitLord7 on Twitter. If we zoom out, I don't think we need that much. We don't need to zoom out that much. A lot of data on the perps. So what I showed a handful of people yesterday, and we'll go through the notes. Downtrending volume plus a bull flag equals next move equals up. I made that note when we were at 5 cents. We were somewhere around 5 cents. We're scooping up just like you saw on the ENJIN chart. We're scooping up from the bottom. We had the liquidity touch. We had the liquidity pool here. We were going to come somewhere down to here. The lowest we would have been, in my opinion, would have been 0.36. Before eventually accumulating and attempting to make its move up, the next resistance is going to be 0.54. In my opinion, this is on the 1 day chart. We could see it on much lower time frame very soon. Soon as Bitcoin starts to accumulate sideways, I think dog's going to make its move, maybe even to 6 cents. That's what I'm anticipating. There's not much. You see all the wicks here. It's a lot of uncertainty or algorithms pulling liquidity to make moves down or up. So there's not a lot of resistance from 0.54 on up to 6 cents. Just about. So if you have patience, this is the 1 day chart. We're going to scoop up. Let me wish I can use a drawing tool. Need to get an art pad or something. So what we're going to do is scoop up here. Ideally, we're going to come here, maybe even here, create a higher low, more resistance again. We use that resistance. We use that area as the new scoop as support, and a lot of people like to call this a cup and handle. Before we break out higher, the safest bet is to take profit at 7 cents. But I believe we use this zone here as the next accumulation zone for dog before it makes a move higher. And after we break 10 cents, in my opinion, according to these fractals, like this stuff, you can't make this stuff up. This fractal here, fractal is just a copy of another pattern. that has happened before. This area from breakout to the next breakout took 11 days, 11 to 12 days. This breakout to this breakout took 23 days. And this breakout to where we are now has been 36 days. It's not a coincidence that this stuff happens. So I believe something may happen soon with Dog. We may get a bullish Elon tweet, or another company allowing Dog to be traded. Something pretty big I think is going to happen over the next week or two. Next week, in my opinion. Going through the notes again, each move took 33% more time to complete. And that's what I just explained. Confluence with high time frames and low time frames. So that's going back to what we were talking about in ENJIN. We have the moves here. Liquidity touch happened to come down to this section here before we start scooping up again. And if you take we're not going to do it here. It's just already, well, okay, we already have it there. You look at the Fibonacci levels, you have a lot of confluence with the lines. The 0.38 on the high time frames with the 0.05 on the low time frames, and a few other areas you can tell, okay, this is definitely going to be resistance right there before it starts to accumulate again. On top of that, we have, okay, that's exactly what we said. Worst case, we had that 37-cent touch, which I already mentioned, which happens to be the 0.618 golden area. I don't really see that happening unless we have a black swan event. A black swan event will take us all the way back down to 1 cent, worst case. Technically, that doesn't make any sense. Like, black swan event is when something in the world happens, a nuclear bomb goes off, or bombing happens, something crazy, COVID lockdown, something like that. I don't think that's going to happen yet, not yet. So I believe, with all that said, if we look at where what Dog has done in his past few moves, I think from this fractal to this fractal was 1,000% move. For all you math people out there, 1,000. Why is that not 1,000%? Okay, what did I do? Let's see what I did. Must have been a lower time frame. I don't know. Anyways, the move from here to here is going to be similar to, we add, let's say 500%. I have a chart somewhere. I'll have to show it. No, that's not what I wanted. 500% on top of the current. Oh, that's why, yeah, from here to here. Ends up, let's just say we get to 40 cents. The next move is going to take much longer to happen, but 40 cents, 30, 40 cents is very possible on the next move. And then now we're really talking about $1 the closer we get to it. So I'm very bullish on Dog. I'm going to attempt to stay in my trade. My leverage trade, but we'll see what happens. So that's the information that nobody's showing, all this information going in depth. If anybody has any questions, let me know. You know where I'm at. No need to be shy. Thanks.